Cover page. Image description. Cover of the Movement Generation newsletter, December 2025, titled Stay Human. Image is a colorful collage that has a starry nightscape as a backdrop. In the center of the collage, there are 5 different images of 6 vibrant humans, 1 playing guitar, 2 gesticulating with their hands as they speak, the remaining 3 smiling. All images are in a black, white, sepia, and orange pinkish tint. Around these images are strong-toned floating images of plants and flowers, an orange poppy, white blooming fennel, a pink thistle, a melon-like vegetable with branching leaves and a yellow flower, 2 dandelions, and a violet-pink echinacea flower being visited by a bee. A shining orb serves as an intermediate backdrop to the humans and flowers. At the base of the cover, taking up the bottom quarter of the page, is a sepia image of rolling hills. Page 2. Image description. Introduction page with image of rolling hills in the background. Introduction. Dear MG Fam, in the last 6 months, Movement Generation has been deep in design, renovation, and restoration mode on the land and in our political, cultural, and relational work. In the face of the current iterations of state violence via fascism and tech oligarchy, we assert and express our humanness, as peoples have done for centuries, through mutual aid, collective healing, grieving the deaths of loved ones in our cultural ways, and deepening our praxis of solidarity. We must not waver. As we are bombarded with false promises through the increasing insistence of the imposition of AI on our lives, we remember what our role is in nature as natural beings, humans, in the web of life. Just as trees make oxygen and soil provides nourishment for all life forms, humans bring stories and song, making meaning of the world around us to love, protect, and provide for one another. These past 2 seasons, we've held ceremony transitioning from our little backyard yurt in Berkeley, giving thanks to the land and the families that held MG since the beginning. We've participated in 2 prescribed burns with the fire department and begun working with the water flows at our liberated land site with our community of volunteers. We've traversed the world from Milan to Massachusetts to California's Central Valley and back home to Oakland, participating in powerful organizing, movement building, and cultural work happening across different sectors of society. 2025 has also been a year of profound loss. Patty Byrne, Marvin Boomer, Asada Shakur, Joanna Macy, Alice Wong, too many more. Rest in power, rest in peace, rest in freedom. In their memory, we lean into all our relations, in the living world and in the spirit realm, as an antidote to the dissonance of these times, and as we continue to build formations, structures, and economies that affirm life. May you find resonance in the stories in these pages. Stay human. Movement Generation. Page 3. Image description. Table of contents page with image of rolling hills in the background in sepia and violet tones. Text. Table of contents. Introduction. Page 2. Continuity in of Fluidity by Anaya Butler. Page 4. Just Transition. Prapa Summer Dreamweave. Page 6. Understanding AI, Technology, and Power. Page 10. Stop Billionaires Summer Training. Page 12. Land. Building the New. Page 14. Becoming Regenerative Disturbers. Page 16. Culture Shift. Mateo's Mood Board. Page 20. Remembering Patty Byrne. Page 22. Leah Penniman on the Haitian Revolution, page 24. Tending the Fire, page 32. Cacophony of Joy podcast, page 33. Rooted in Joy poster, page 36. Page 4. Image description. Milky Way-like purple starry night background.
Continuity and enough fluidity. Welcomed by thunder, water pouring relentlessly from clouds, where we like to think a heaven exists. Trees standing still through it all, resting in between volcanoes and possibility, waiting for the smoke to come. Moving with ease yet thickness, like honey, sweet, ancestral, forgotten but feels familiar. Poured over war wounds, fragmented bodies and memories, mending what was once valued as sacred, rerouted in return. Sweetness eclipses centuries of erasure. Sweetness means we're still here, still feeling. Remembering our vulnerability to earth, breath blending with her movement, movement aligned with her waters, bloodline traveling through currents, my people birth from the womb we were also buried in. Waves whisper continuity, those who sought life by taking ours tried to make us forget. Memory that seems too heavy to carry, yet our bodies feel lifeless without. Essences of our being held by constant birth. Water, womb, vessel to life, portal to being, insisting on life.
Page 5. Image description. Collage image with a human at the center who is facing back and seems to be looking into a backdrop composed of many striking elements: a multicolored night sky, a powerful burst of lightning, a shining orb surrounding the lightning, a large rolling bed of clouds, and a forest canopy nestled within the clouds. The human seems to be standing within a body of water, as the bottom half of their body is submerged. The water glistens with an aquamarine color palette on the left and a darker purple and sepia palette on the right.
Page 6, section Just Transition, title Prapa Summer Dreamweave. Image description, cutout images of leaves. Angela Aguilar, an indigenous Chicana woman wearing sunglasses while working the land in East Oakland amongst tall grasses. Photo by Brooke Anderson. Page 7. What we feed grows. One of the 4 principles of the Just Transition framework and one of the 4 ingredients of resilience-based organizing. When we put our heart, spirit, and body into a vision of better places for all, we organize ourselves and apply our labor to meet our needs in ways that are rooted in our cultures and histories. Our Summer 2025 Prapa Dreamweave experience, a collaboration between Castlemont High School, Civic Design Studio, and other East Oakland youth community organizations to build power using art, creativity, and education towards ecological justice, was designed around this principle. We entered the summer in a somber state after the tragic death of Castlemont High School pillar, Dr. Marvin Boomer. Affectionately called Boomer, he supported the Prapa collaboration, allowing us to continue gathering at the castle. In his honor, we slowed down and pivoted our approach to the Dreamweave. We gently set aside the strategy sessions and deep political education and instead channeled our energy into feeding the growing projects at Castlemont High. Our intergenerational cross-sector cohort, with ages ranging from 14 to 80, spent the week learning about projects at Castlemont, including the development of an outdoor classroom, beautifying a corner on a street adjacent to the school, the endless farm activities, and the design and development of public art by high school youth. And then we applied our labor to support the projects. Our cohort helped build picnic tables, move compost to the farm, put pollinator plants in the soil, weeded garden beds, and more. In the process, we emphasize the life-affirming work of relationship building, mutual aid, and we ask the question, what do we hold sacred here in East Oakland? The cohort wrapped up the week cutting up melon, preparing veggies and meat for grilling, and cooking food for almost 100 people who were working at Castlemont on various projects all summer. While there were many powerful moments during the Dreamweave, the multi-generational learning and care that transpired over the week was inspirational, especially for these times. One of the youth participants shared, "I learned that youth can talk to adults without a problem or without a power difference. But we live in a society that makes us think that youth are below adults." May we continue to cultivate experiences for each other that feed the vision of building economies based on caring and sacredness of relationships to each other and the world upon which we depend. Image description: 2 brown-skinned folks sitting in a circle, smiling and slapping their hands together. Photo by Brooke Anderson. A young person cutting back a tree with an axe, surrounded by lush ivy. Photo by Brooke Anderson. 2 brown-skinned femmes posing together and smiling behind a raised garden bed at Castlemont High School in Oakland. Photo by Brooke Anderson. Youth working the land with garden tools and wheelbarrows at Castlemont High School in Oakland, with homes on a hill and a blue sky in the background. Photo by Brooke Anderson. Pages 10 and 11. Section Just Transition, titled Understanding AI, Technology, and Power. Image description: background of dark purple and black, with a blurred photo of flowers and insects, and an electric blue grid at the bottom.
Page 10. Breaking the binary between techno-fetishism and techno-fatalism. As we all work hard to wrap our heads and hearts around the emergence of AI, it is useful to take a step back and root ourselves in a firmer understanding of our society's relationship with technology. These are anxiety-provoking times, where we often seem trapped in a binary between 2 imposed worlds, that of techno-fetishism, one that believes technological breakthroughs will always save us and are the defining features of human progress and development, or techno-fatalism, one that is resigned to accept emerging technologies as inevitable, which can't be stopped, even if they destroy us. How to break out of this bind? How do we gain clarity and reclaim our societal agency? It helps to first define what we mean by technology. Once rooted in a shared understanding, we can then democratically reclaim the terms by which technology is shaped, directed, managed, and deployed. At a simple, distilled level, technology can be defined as tools to solve problems. Examples: a plow, a printing press, penicillin, barbed wire, Agent Orange, or a thermonuclear bomb. Written language is a social technology, as are games, music, and educational systems. So to further define technology properly, these are the questions. What problems are we trying to solve? Who gets to define the problems at hand? Who decides we need this new tool? Further relevant questions: how is this new tool forged? What are the impacts of its creation and production? What existing practices does the new tool displace? Who gets to decide how it is used? Who gets to use it? How it changes hands? Who can modify the tool? And how they can modify it? These questions help us appreciate that technology is not simply made up of parts. Technology is a complex set of relationships of resources and power over time. How it is used is an important part of a technology, but not always the most important part. Technology represents social and ecological processes, and therefore can only be understood in that context. Technologies always have power relationships embedded within them. and technology almost always extends the power relationships in the context from which they emerge. We must ask ourselves, what assumptions are being made that govern the decisions that drive a technology? Technology always has assumptions built in and assumptions it is built on. We need to engage in a concerted effort to contest in this narrative space that defines technology within our society. Technological trajectories are never inevitable, even if the tech lords and broligarchs of our day want us to believe they are. All technology is political, as all technologies are the embodiment of socio-ecological processes over time. This means we can reassert our democratic right to define, shape, confine, and redirect technology at any juncture in this process. Recently, Chileans in the greater Santiago area successfully fought and blocked a new Google AI data center. This move protects the communal water needs of many people and ecosystems, given the exponentially absurd amount of clean water needed to run a data center. Reclaiming and constraining technology towards regenerative and life-affirming purposes is the task at hand. Movement Generation's analysis on AI is informed by ongoing work with ETC Group. For a deep dive, read ETC's group report, The Politics of Technology.
Pages 12 and 13, section Just Transition, title Stop Billionaires Summer. Cropped black and white image of an anonymous person holding a sign that reads #Purge Palantir in red writing.
Photo by Brooke Anderson. Page 13. In September, Movement Generation provided curricula and training support for 18 college students from 14 states participating in the Stop Billionaires Summit in Oakland, California. This summer, Stop Billionaires Summer brought together a multiracial, multi-generational, and cross-class movement throughout the Bay Area for 8 weeks of sustained nonviolent direct action to demand an end to the billionaires' class control over our economy, communities, and ecosystems. At the start of fall, to heighten the pressure on the billionaire broligarchs and to continue to invest in youth leadership, the Oil and Gas Action Network, OGAN, created a paid fellowship for college students to make the connection between billionaires and repression on campus. The fellowship started with a 3-day summit in the Bay Area to deepen students' understanding of tech billionaire fascism and to sharpen their skills at campaign research and development, direct action planning, and narrative strategy. At that summit, Movement Generation staff Mateo Nube, Gopal Dayaneni, and Brooke Anderson led trainings on ecology, extractive and regenerative economies, just transition, and the use of AI to surveil and repress social movements. Student fellows who attended the summit are now leading powerful campaigns at their schools, including blocking Palantir from recruiting on campus, fighting big AI data farms, challenging universities' complicity in weapons manufacturing, supporting local campaigns for housing, immigrant and environmental justice, and more. MG staff trainers are continuing to provide mentorship to student fellows.
Pages 14 and 15, section Land, title Building the New, image description, a vibrant photo of blue skies with fluffy white clouds and green rolling hills is overlaid with 2 photos of buildings. One is brick red with a green roof and under construction, and the second is a light lime green tiny home with a tomato door and a solar panel on the roof. Page 15. We've been working hard to build a vibrant, ecologically designed, access-centered Justice and Ecology Center. This past year, we made a big pivot from hustling on urgent repairs of the buildings to implementation of some dreamy building infrastructure. We had our first specialized hire, Akeem King, our facilities maintenance and construction manager, working in the realms of general contracting and repairs and maintenance. He's been doing amazing work alongside the land team, the residents, and many contractors. We've been moving a lot of work to maintain the core infrastructure like our entry roads, electrical systems, water drainage and pipe shed, and rodent control / cohabitation. This month we'll complete 2 of our biggest renovation projects, a wheelchair accessible bathroom in our main hall and a fully renovated studio apartment. The renovated apartment is bigger and integrates full wheelchair accessibility and access forward design. We also just broke ground on a big exterior renovation project on our main hall. This project will build in fire-resistant siding and new windows and doors and will allow us to address some urgent structural deterioration in our framing. We've partnered with a values-aligned architect firm to help us design this project, which also sets us up for future dreamy renovations of the main hall. Page 16. Section Land. Title, Becoming Regenerative Disturbers. Page background is deep orange. We spent much of the last 3 years wrapping our minds and hearts around the history and complexities of this land. We've learned how settlement land use patterns of the last 150 years have degraded the ecological cycles of these upper watershed ridges and slopes. It's a familiar series of long-lasting degrading disturbances, roads, culverts, and infrastructure built directly in the historic water flow pathways, fire-prone flash fuels of non-native grassland plants, cow grazing compaction, and dense, overstocked forested slopes. In our 3rd autumn season in relationship with this land, we're engaging in a mosaic of wildland management practices that support fire, water, and biodiversity resilience. With the help of many partners, consultants, and volunteers, we're implementing what our friends at the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center call regenerative disturbance techniques, a set of practices with the broader goals of restoring ecological cycles and keystone processes. Page 17. Image description. Firefighters in yellow jackets and yellow helmets ignite a controlled burn with a large red torch on Movement Generation's land site. Page 18. Image description. 6 people relaxing and standing in a grassy area on Movement Generation's land site with trees and blue skies in the background. 5 of them wear yellow-resistant jackets and helmets or hats, and 1 relaxing in a chair has a gray bun. Let it burn. At the end of June, we partnered with the Moraga Orinda Fire District, MOFED, on a 6.5-acre broadcast burn. It was a beautiful day bringing back low-intensity, high-frequency good fire to this land as Bay Miwok peoples practice here for millennia. The burns will help restore native vegetation and improve wildlife habitat, as well as create a buffer between the wildland and homes in the area. We're thrilled that MOFED is doing the work of making good fire common sense in the East Bay and grateful for their support in building our capacity to carry out prescribed burns into the future. This past fall, we planned 2 more broadcast burns, another 4 acres total. We've also continued to work with local arborists and sawyers on creating shaded fuel breaks, limbing and thinning dense, dead, and neglected slopes around the woodland core areas of our site. Fewer trees, more forest. We've also done a lot of very unglamorous mowing and weed eating, which also helps disturbance-dependent grassland ecosystems and controls non-native flash fuels like poison hemlock. Page 19. 5 people of various ages and ethnicities in casual clothing stand or crouch in the shade next to a rippling stream with green grasses, flowers, and plants all around. The 2 most visible people wear big smiles, one with a shoulder-length afro and brown skin and wearing a jean shirt, and the other with white skin and reddish-brown hair and wearing a black skirt. Hustle and flow. This past fall, we took some of the overstock tree and shrub fuel and used that beneficial biomass to start getting right with the water cycle on the land. Guided by low-tech process-based restoration, PBR, practices and principles, we experimented with various water interventions including gully stuffing, beaver dam analogs, and other water speed bump systems that address excessive runoff and soil erosion and improve water infiltration and retention. Ahead of winter rains, we have several workdays and a volunteer day dedicated to getting these practices going. The restoration goals entwined in these practices is pretty amazing. Over time, we'll promote groundwater recharge, encourage repopulation of riparian plant communities to slow sediment mobility and expand wetland mosaic habitat, restore hydrologic processes that sequester carbon, and enhance and encourage conditions for habitat resiliency for many critters.
Section Culture Shift. Image description. A mood board titled Mateo's Mood Board. Clippings on the mood board include a book cover for La Mujer Habitada by Gioconda Belli, a cutout photo of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian man with a mustache and beard and wearing a green shirt and black jacket, a news headline that reads, "The point of politics is to convince people, not grandstand," with an image of a crowd protesting in front of the Barclays Center building and a person holding a sign that reads, "Abolish the police." A book cover of The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. A book cover for Playground by Richard Powers. An illustration featuring children dancing in the foreground against silhouettes of workers, with a green landscape and homes in the background along with an MST flag and a sign that reads MST. A cutout photo of Arundhati Roy, a South Asian woman with salt and pepper cropped wavy hair wearing a green and white checkered scarf. Album cover for Wake Up, Wake Up, Wake Up by Skip the Needle. Album cover for Tiempo de Desembarcar by Los Nadies. Film promotion poster for One Battle After Another featuring Benicio del Toro. Image of Ocan, an Afro-Cuban jazz duo. Image of three men from the band Go Go Penguin. Image of a group of people standing in front of a banner that reads, Our Community Emma. Cutout of South Park animated characters. Cutout photo of Mateo Nube wearing a light blue baseball cap, mirrored shades, and a black and blue track jacket.
Page 22, section Culture Shift, title Remembering Patty Byrne. Graphic image of a pink rose on the top left corner. Center right side of the page is an illustration of Patty Byrne, a Haitian-Japanese person with light brown skin, smiling playfully with love and light shining from their brown eyes. They wear an off-the-shoulder opalescent blue dress and an amethyst pendant. Their brown hair is pulled back into their signature two buns. Illustration by Nomi Lamb. Behind Patty are a variety of flowers in soft and muted tones.
On May 29, 2025, our community lost a dear friend and comrade, Patty Byrne. Patty was co-founder and longtime executive and artistic director of Sins Invalid and a primary architect of the disability justice movement, its 10 principles, and core practices that center the lives, wisdom, and leadership of disabled, queer, and trans Black and brown people. A few words from Movement Generation collective members from the past and present share some reflections on Patty's beautiful life and legacy. I first experienced the gift of Patty Byrne as a college student, as we were both members of Students Against Intervention in Central America. It was a badass space of fierce and successful organizing, made possible in so many ways by Patty's brilliance and visionary leadership. Patty always led with joy, discipline, directness, and tremendous political clarity. They took internationalism very seriously and pushed us to think and act and care in innovative and necessary ways. Patty was great at getting us to cultivate curiosity, lean into discomfort, and foster our revolutionary learning edges as we did so. And Patty was funny as fuck. Always. Their irreverence was delightful, refreshing, healing. Thank you, Patty, for shining so bright, so true, so potent. Patty Byrne, presente. Mateo Nube.
Page 23. Graphic of soft pink rose in the bottom right corner and a partial image of a gray-toned stargazer lily in the top right corner.
This is a reflection from Brooke Anderson. What Patty taught me, I can never unlearn, which is that if capitalism depends on ableism, that industrial production brought with it measuring a person's worth by how much profit they can produce, then disability justice requires the end of capitalism. In other words, if we're committed to a world where all mind bodies are truly sacred and worthy of care and belonging, then we have to reorganize our relationships around collective care, interdependence, and mutual aid. I am forever indebted to Patty for their friendship, comradeship, and mentorship. I will miss her political brilliance, her artistic production, her always super fly style. I am so grateful to have recorded a conversation with Patty in what we didn't know would be their last year of life. If it would do you good to hear her voice, I invite you to listen to it. A link to that podcast will be in the notes.
I absolutely 100% move more boldly in everything I do since meeting Patty Byrne. Without a doubt, they shifted my perspective, approach, and beliefs about my body and all bodies. No body is disposable, and our bodies, disabled, queer, crazy, funky, are sexy as fuck. I sometimes forget this about myself, but Patty's way of pushing with stern care, humor, and realness continues to be instructive and inspiring and allows me to experience the worthiness, sensuality, and love for all bodies and all life. Thank you, Patty. I will never be the same, and I am grateful. Angela Aguilar.
Patty showed me how to move from a place of unapologetic and fierce love. She could say, "That's not right, and here's another perspective," in a way that could help bring someone into their heart instead of shame and defensiveness. Patty did all that with a twinkle in her eye, a flawlessly made-up face, a delightful giggle, and a lightness that made radical change feel imminently possible instead of heavy and hard. Patty Byrne, presente.
Michelle Mascareñas.
Patty took us all under their wing, and for that I am forever grateful. A legend, a teacher, a beautiful human. Patty taught me how to be unapologetically myself, to embrace the complexity of being human at this time on earth, and to turn towards the moment with both fiery rage and the deepest, most expansive love possible. I'm a better person, comrade, and leader because of Patty. Rest in motherfucking power, Patty Byrne.
Ellen Choi.
What I will cherish is Patty's smile and kindness, the fierce conviction, and the loving critiques. Patty was unafraid to grapple with the contradictions of all of our lives and of the world we are trying to navigate. She taught me to let go of fear of making mistakes and of the violent lie of perfectionism. She was always here for her communities, and she always will be.
Gopal Dayaneni. Page 24. Section, Culture Shift. Title, Murmurations. Below the title is an image of Leah Penniman, article author and a Black Creole person, looking off into the distance. Leah's hair is braided into a top bun, and Leah wears dangling round earrings and a graphic tee that reads Soul. Behind Leah's image is a graphic of lightning bolts emanating from a cluster of gray clouds. To the left of Leah's image is a large magenta hibiscus flower. Below Leah's image, the text reads, "The Haitian Revolution Continues. Lessons for Today," by Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm. Behind the text are lush green rolling hills with tropical vegetation in the foreground. Page 25. Image description. Partial illustration of a pink flower and vine on the right side of the page.
The Haitian Revolution continues. Lessons for today. Black rumbling clouds provided cover for the insurgents as they converged in the forested grove at Bois Caïma on August 14, 1791. Heavy raindrops and lightning were welcomed as good omens by the 200 enslaved people who entrusted their officiants, Ongan Dari Boukman and Mambo Cecile Fatima, to call the African and Taino spirits to their aid. The time for revolution was imminent. The Africans in Saint-Domingue had suffered at the hands of the most brutal enslavers in the hemisphere, forced to toil in scorching, disease-ridden cane fields, and when they did not meet their quotas, buried alive, crushed in mortars, crucified on planks, castrated, forced to eat excrement, boiled in cane syrup, and sent down the mountainside in barrels studded with spikes. As the rain washed the sweat and rivulets down their bodies, Boukman intoned, "God, who has made the sun that shines upon us, that rises from the sea, that makes the storm to roar and governs the thunders, you have seen what the whites have done. Give strength to our arms and courage to our hearts. Sustain us. Hearken until liberty." Fatima sacrificed a black pig to the deity Eseli Dantor, spiritual mother of Haiti and protector of the rebels. Together, the congregation swore a blood oath to free the land and free themselves at any cost. Within the next 10 days, the Maroon Army of Dahomey took hold of the northern province. By 1792, the rebels controlled nearly a third of Saint-Domingue, Haiti. By 1804, after 12 years of uprising, they declared complete victory as the only rebellion of the enslaved to result in the founding of a nation both free from slavery and free from rule by their former captors. The Haitian Revolution inspired insurgencies across the colonized world for which Western nations have punished Haiti to this day. This Black August, we commemorate Bois Caïma and reflect on the lessons that this catalytic voodoo ceremony has for change makers today. Professor Pierre-Michel Chary proposed the Principe Bois Caïma, a set of proverbs written in Haitian Creole, elucidating the values of Bois Caïma, which will be explored in this essay.
Page 26. Image description. Illustration of pink flowers on the bottom right of the page, and partial illustration of green vines peeking from the top of the page.
Sa nous pas connaît, pi rampasser nous. What we do not know is greater than us. For a small band of hungry, sparsely resourced rebels to take on the military might of France, Spain, and England in a bid for their freedom required a deep faith in the divine mystérieux. They called on God, Eseli Dantor, all of the sacred Loa, their ancestors, and the power of the forest that hid them to, quote, direct our hands and give us help. What if we, in this moment of acute repression, acknowledge that we can't win freedom on our own, that we need the strength of our ancestors and the divine to make a way out of no way? Des monts, Gaimont. There are mountains behind mountains. The steep, forested slopes provided refuge for Maroon communities who escaped the plantation, forming autonomous societies and rebel armies. Voodoo priest Francois Macandel, born in Guinea and enslaved in Limbe, unified the Maroon bands and established a network of secret organizations among the plantation enslaved, uniting over 6,000 rebels and leading to the rebellion of 1751 to 1758. The Macandal insurgency was a precursor and training ground for the revolution. In what ways are we investing in land-based autonomous zones, beyond the gaze and control of empire, where we can train, organize, strategize, and heal? How are we engaging the cradled protection of mountains and forests to incubate our movements? Chaque moun ge façon pali pouli la prier. Respecte façon chaque moun la prier. Everyone has their own way to pray. Respect how everyone prays. In Haitian Voodoo, there is always enough room on the shrine for your deity and enough room in the ceremony for your praise songs. The freedom fighters were Congo, Yoruba, Fon, Angola, Dahomey, Nago, Igbo, Bizango, and Taino, and they combined the strength of all their deities to unite in one syncretized religion. Voodoo implicitly rejected the African status as, quote, slaves, and asserted the basic humanity and dignity of each person. In what ways are we celebrating the beliefs, cultures, and faiths of those in our community, even when we differ? How are we building a wide tent that embraces diversity in our coalitions? Do we see every one of us as fully human and worthy of dignity?
Page 27, image description. Illustration of green foliage at the top right of the page.
Tanknap apprendre. C'est tanknap konen. Comment pour nous respecter, équilibre la vie. The more we learn, the more we will understand how to respect life's balance. The Haitian revolutionaries understood that their dehumanization and enslavement was contrary to the natural order of the universe and an upset to the metaphysical balance of life. They expected the deities manifested in nature to come to their aid, and they did, in the form of mosquitoes carrying yellow fever. Over 12,000 British troops that invaded Haiti in 1794 succumbed to the dreaded black vomit, according to Sir John Fortescue, with more dying from disease than combat. British soldiers began to riot when they found out they were being sent to the West Indies, well knowing it was effectively a death sentence. The French attempt to retake the island in 1802 ended in defeat after General Charles Leclerc and 50,000 of his troops perished to Yellow Jack. By 1804, one account estimated that disease had killed 80 to 85% of French forces. To face the most powerful army in the world at the time, Toussaint Louverture established bases in the mountains with fewer mosquitoes and used herbal medicines to protect fighters from the disease. Some believe that their fallen heroes like Macandal reincarnated as mosquitoes to aid their resistance. Of course, the resistance lost many lives to yellow fever as well, only partially mitigated by their deft use of the highlands. Nature out of balance brings trouble to all beings. Whether we see the world through an empirical scientific lens or a spiritual lens or both, can we admit that wildfires, floods, hurricanes, droughts, pest outbreaks, and heat waves are messengers of a world out of balance? Can we imagine that restoring balance in our human communities will have ripple effects in the natural world? Can we see the echoes and parallels in the way we treat our human kin and our beyond human kin? Tout moun gen place yo en bas, ciel plea. Everyone has their place under the blue sky. Rooted in the force of Wakaima, the Haitian Revolution embraced the leadership of women and trans people. Cécile Fatima performed the inaugural voodoo ceremony of the Haitian Revolution, one among many mambos, female priestesses, who used their spiritual leadership to radicalize the enslaved and facilitate the liberation movement. Romaine la Prophétesse, a trans woman and prophetess, led an uprising of thousands of captives and came to govern two main cities in southern Haiti, Léogâne and Jacmel. Dédé Basile was a maternal mystic of the revolution ensuring the dignified burial of soldiers and representing the madness of love for the land Haiti. Women participated at all levels of the rebel army, consistent with the West African traditions training women for combat. Notably, Marie-Jeanne Lamartinière led the famous Battle of Crête-à-Pierrot. Women and trans rebels also served as nurses, spies, and intelligence agents. In what ways do we make space for the leadership of trans people in our movements? Women, disabled folks, queer comrades, do we recognize that everyone has a place in the long march to freedom? And do we find aligned and important roles for them?
Page 28, image description. Graphic image of 2 cowrie shells at the bottom left of the page.
Si gen pouillon, gen poude. If there is enough for one, there is enough for two. Haitians did not stop at freeing themselves. They offered citizenship to any enslaved or oppressed person that arrived at Haiti's shores as mandated by Dessalines' constitution. Haiti's early presidents, Dessalines, Christophe, Pétion, and Boyer, all had programs encouraging Black captives from the United States, Martinique, and Guadeloupe to resettle, guaranteeing their freedom. Notably, President Alexandre Pétion protected escaped Jamaicans from re-enslavement after they fled their plantation and landed in the southern city of Jérémie. On multiple occasions, Haiti's leaders offered asylum to revolutionaries globally. One of the more notable examples of this included Haiti's involvement with Gran Colombia, where Dessalines and Pétion both offered aid, ammunition, and asylum to Francisco de Miranda and Simón Bolívar, who later credited Haiti for the liberation of his country. Mexican nationalists Francisco Javier Mina and José Joaquín de Herrera took asylum in Les Cayes and were welcomed by Pétion during Mexico's War of Independence. The Greeks later received support from President Boyer during their fight against the Ottomans. What would it look like to actualize the adage that no one is free until all of us are free? How can we build global and intersectional solidarity into our liberation struggles from their inception? Na pwe anyen, na la vie a qui page règlement. C'est règlement qui baille la vie à équilibre. There is nothing in life without a law. Law gives life balance. Haiti's first constitution abolished slavery for all time across its lands. It also established public schools and honored agriculture as the first, most noble, and most useful of all the arts. The Constitution eliminated distinctions based on the color gradient, declaring all Haitians to be Black, including indigenous people, mixed-race people, and naturalized Germans and Polanders. It forbade the former enslavers from owning property or gaining citizenship. Saint-Domingue was renamed Haiti, Haiti, after the indigenous Taino name for the island. Translating community values into policy and self-governance demands a level of clarity and rigor that can be tedious and intimidating. Are there ways that our movements lean into ambiguity as avoidance? In what areas of our work could codified rules and norms bring greater balance and alignment? What policies are we willing to take a stand for at a societal level?
Page 29, image description. Graphic image of a single cowrie shell at the center right edge of the page.
Tout mou, c'est mou. Page mou, passe mou. All people are human. No person is better than another. In 1802, Napoleon dispatched around 5,200 Polish soldiers to fight alongside the French in Haiti. There were 500 or so Poles who so admired their opponents that they switched sides and joined the Haitians. The Poles saw kinship in the Haitians, believing they were fighting for the same ideals of freedom and independence. Haiti's first head of state, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, called Polish people, quote, the white Negroes of Europe, which was then regarded as a great honor as it meant brotherhood between Poles and Haitians. After Haiti gained its independence, the Poles acquired Haitian citizenship for their loyalty and support in overthrowing the French colonialists and were called Black in the Haitian Constitution. Are we open to allies and supporters joining us from overlooked corners of our community? Can we honor the commonalities we have in our values with others even when geography and circumstance are distinct? How do we honor and share gratitude with those who help us get free? Pas fait sang innocent couler. Do not shed the blood of innocence. This is possibly the most difficult Bua Kaima proverb to address, because the Haitian Revolution was notoriously brutal, and the blood of civilians, including children, was shed throughout. Our role is neither to condemn nor glorify these tactics, but to recognize this values-based aspiration of restraint and ask, what are the causes and conditions that made this level of bloodshed nearly inevitable? I dream of a world where bloodless civil resistance offers the only suite of tactics necessary for liberation and justice. We are on our way. Studies comparing nonviolent and violent resistance campaigns from 1900 to 2006 show that nonviolent campaigns succeeded about 53% of the time, while violent campaigns succeeded only 26% of the time, and further, that nonviolent campaigns led to more stable democracies. The interconnectedness and visibility of global struggles, coupled with emergence of global definitions and shared values around basic human rights, are key ingredients in making civil resistance a viable liberatory tool. We can simultaneously glean inspiration from the noble aspects of the Haitian Revolution, acknowledge its limitations, and aspire to the foundational principle of protecting the innocent. How does abolitionary praxis challenge us to imagine a world where all beings are innocent? What examples can we point to of fierce accountability that does not rely on violence?
Page 30, image description, illustration of a passion flower and vine at the bottom right section of the page.
Malé yon, héritier kiblié, esclave fait bois caïma, pour moun kap sevi bondier, palote moun na mitambe. Shame on the heir who forgets that slaves made bois caïma, so that people who are serving God may never again put in packs among animals. Due to the abysmal mortality rate for those toiling in the plantations of Saint-Domingue, 2/3 of the enslaved were not born into slavery but rather imported from Africa. This meant they could still taste their recent freedom and speak the tongues of their motherlands. They knew they were not meant to be slaves and were ready to engage in unprecedented mass non-cooperation to free themselves. These courageous ancestors asked that we never forget their feats and that we honor them by preventing anyone from ever being enslaved again. Today, approximately 50 million people are enslaved worldwide, including incarcerated laborers in the United States. How are we taking a stand to end slavery? We are beseeched to never forget. How are we teaching the legacy of Bua Kaima to our children so its lessons do not perish?
Page 31, image description, image of lush green rolling hills and tropical vegetation at the bottom of the page.
This Black August, we ask that you retell and remember Bua Kaima. Imagine its stormy summer raindrops kissing your face and the intonations of Mambo Fatima stirring you as you swear your own oath of liberation. These ancestors are not gone. They are with us when we protect our neighbors from ICE, when we flood the streets for Palestinian freedom, when we tend the soil to feed communities under food apartheid, when we stand up for Black lives in the face of mass incarceration and police violence, and when we practice our beautiful African ancestral rituals. May the Ashe these ancestors passed down to us fortify us with wisdom, courage, and victory. This is Leah Penniman, co-founder and farmer at Soulfire Farm in Mohican Territory, Grafton, New York. I am a Haitian heritage, Creole mama and earth lover, and I leaned into courage in sharing this essay with you. I am a Creole language learner, so I ask for your grace and forgiveness and patience in advance for my mispronunciations of our beautiful mother tongue. Have a blessed and beautiful day.
Page 32, section, Culture Shift, title, Tending the Fire. Movement Generation is so honored to be in deep partnership with our friends and co-conspirators at Art.coop, Climate Justice Alliance, and New Economy Coalition. Our Creative Wildfire Collaborative has been not only an inspiring and fruitful arts and cultural strategy program, but also an abundant ecosystem of relationships. Every time we get together, the joy is palpable. This fall, we convened an incredible cohort of artists, storytellers, and communicators to help us dream up the stories that will inspire our peoples through the next phase of Creative Wildfire. Among MG, CJA, NEC, and Art.coop's own storytellers and weavers in this cohort were artists Aisha Schillingford, Ashley Salaz, Chiara Galimberti, Jackie Fawn, Lizzie Suarez, Maddie Clifford, and Rad Pereira. Our facilitators, Chris Lagunas and Zakiya Scott from Cypher, held us in our dream space. Our narrative strategy sessions culminated in a magical retreat at Bent Birch, a movement-aligned retreat center in Western Massachusetts. Shout out to the Cabilio Collective for also supporting our stay. From real comic books you can hold in your hands to popular theater for embodying our liberation, the future of Creative Wildfire looks and feels very exciting. We're moving together to reclaim our narrative power and remind our people what it feels like to build the new. Page 33. Image description. A collage of a dozen people. They are multiracial, Black, Chicana, Filipino, Cuban, Indigenous, some speaking, others looking directly at the camera and smiling. One is dancing, another is weaving a fabric. Several wear movement t-shirts or hoodies. Nestled all around them are bright red, orange, and yellow leaves, arranged in such a way as to resemble or suggest flames. There's a small cottage in the upper right-hand corner. The whole image feels like autumn.
Page 34, Section Culture Shift. Title, Cacophony of Joy. Image description, logo of the herring protectors in teal and sea blue. The logo itself has herring at the center, held by a concentric circle of human hands, held by an outer circle of salmon, whale, and sea lions. In the spring, the Herring Protectors, an Indigenous women-led grassroots movement, invited We Rise and Movement Generation to what is known as Sitka, Alaska, or Shika Kwan, for the Ya Kuish, a Lingit ceremony honoring the herring and Lingit ways of life. Woven with voices and song from ceremony, gatherings, and interviews, and sound from the land, Cacophony of Joy is a series where we share teachings from our time together in Shika Kwan. Guided by the Herring Protectors, we honor grief, confront colonialism, navigate pathways forward together, and make space for celebration and the cacophony of joy. This We Rise production is a collaboration with Movement Generation and Herring Protectors. Learn more about the Herring Protectors and support their work at herringprotectors.org. Find We Rise at weriseproduction.com. Page 35, Image Description. There's an image for each episode of the podcast. The images are a square teal box. An image has the name of each episode, the words Herring Protectors, and a graphic similar to the Herring Protectors logo, but which has herring eggs at the center, herring circling eggs, and hands of various skin tones hold the herring in a circle of care.
Page 36, Section Culture Shift. Title, Rooted in Joy. Artwork by Robert Lou Trujillo at Robert_Tres. Quote, "Together we build what sustains us." End quote. This simple yet necessary reminder and message comes to us through a collaboration between Movement Generation, the Center for Cultural Power, and artist Robert Lou Trujillo. From Robert, quote, For this image, I wanted to combine several themes from the hashtag Rooted in Joy campaign, and those are collective action, interdependence, resilience, and survival. We got this. What are you building, even if it's small, with your neighbors to sustain your community at large? Robert Lou Trujillo is an author and illustrator from Oakland, California. He has worked in murals, public art, arts education, merchandise making, illustration, and kid book publishing. More at robdon'tstop.com. Page 37. Image description. Illustration by Rob Trujillo of a scene at a community outdoor space with a man and woman in the foreground exchanging a basket full of food. The man is wearing work clothes, including a yellow shirt, brown pants, and a hard hat. The woman is wearing a pink shirt, purple pants, blue boots, hoop earrings, and an orange bandana tied around her head. In the background, people of all ages are tending to garden beds, climbing a tree, and speaking to a neighbor on the other side of the fence with a house beyond it. Text on a banner at the top reads, Buen Vivir. Text at the bottom reads, We build what sustains us. Back cover. Image description. Collage with a background of stars in a deep blue sky. In the foreground is a picture of the land. There are dandelion, thistle, a California poppy, various melons, and a bee pollinating a flower. The entire image has a cosmic feel to it. Movement Generation's logo is in the middle of the image. There is a link at the top that reads movementgeneration.org/donate.